Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I don't have a video, but this is Ray Amanat with Taboo Talk with Ray and Steve. I gotta see what happened to my. There we go.
Ray, are you there? Welcome to live TV.
Okay, I'm here. I'm here. So, to our viewing audience, I'm not at the control board. Steve is my co-host
You were there.
from Texas. But welcome to the show. How you doing, Steve?
I'm doing great. You were there. I could see you. I pushed the button. You were there.
Okay.
Oh, mercy. How are you doing,
Well,
Ray?
anyway, so social media land and/or TV land, whoever's tuning into us, welcome to Taboo Talk with Ray and Steve. I'm doing great. Looking forward to today's show. I'd like to get started with that because we have a fantastic guest. So today's episode of Taboo Talk with Ray and Steve, we're going to go back to school. Steve, we're going to go back to school.
I
And we're
am
going to get an education
excited.
on political silence. Our guest is Professor Geoffrey R. Mitchell, who is the CEO and president of the Impact Group based in Grand Prairie, Texas. Welcome to the show, Professor.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. It's an honor and a pleasure for the invitation for me to meet here today.
The pleasure is ours. Thanks for joining us today. So we're going to be going to school,
Mhm.
and my understanding is we're going to be talking about some history. We're going to be talking about our wonderful document called the Constitution, radical concept to actually learn about the Constitution. So, and my understanding is, Dr. Professor, you focus on political science as your mainstay. That's what you do for a living. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, I think politics is really actually a science, and if you, for those of us who've been in it a long time, and so it's an art that has controversies like any other art. But my
Sure.
job for this American family is to study it and look at it from its genesis, from the founding itself to present time.
Outstanding. Outstanding. Well,
So,
it is, again, it's an honor to have you with us and
Thank you.
maybe get some facts about our country, our history, the Constitution, what we believe, and what we should not believe at the same
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
So,
can you give our viewers a little background about yourself and what the MPAC group is and how you got it started?
Well, a little bit about myself. I'm born from in the city of Dallas and a single mom, and so got involved in politics at early time. She was a big got involved in Jimmy Carter's race, and so in those times I was active in working on Jimmy Carter's race at that time when I was just before I was a teenager. But I had an opportunity to get involved in that, and she was very active in Dallas city politics, and that's how I grew into that. And then growing up was just a thing that my mom was involved in as well as I, as opposed to my brothers and sisters. I'm the oldest. And then when I did Impact Group and Associate, I was wanted to do something for conservatives. I wasn't really big on a lot of policies that the other side had in those days. And so I wanted to do something that really got conservatives involved. And then sometime in the 2000, I started Impact Group and Associate. At that time it was the DBA. And I wanted to consult with conservatives about how to get involved in the community, because in that time you had all kinds of programs, social programs that that Democrats were and liberals were really involved in the schools, in the churches, and a lot of Head Start programs. But these were programs which Democrats and liberals got involved in a whole lot, and there were things we just need to get involved in. And that was just really getting close to working with the community. Sometimes I think when we look at public service, we look at public service as just serving the public, but Democrats don't see it like that. Liberals don't see it. They see public service is they make the policy and they get involved in the community to make the things happen beyond policy. Okay, they look at it as activating it. Conservatives kind of see, we do our policy and then we kind of leave and then that's it. Instead of, really, really looking at it as a 24/7 job at all three levels. And so I wanted to, for example, get conservatives involved, like the back to school badge that I started in 2005 with another gentleman who was running for public office, getting involved in school projects, getting local people, local officials that were conservative involved as well in local things.
What kind of, with you being African American and being a conservative as well, have you had any backlash from that from the African American community, especially since you came from working with your mom with Jimmy Carter and his background?
Well, I worked very closely also, not only with that, but I walked in those days with John Wiley Price, who was a big activist in those early 70s, late 70s and early 80s political movements and changes, Ab Lipscomb, but very involved in Dallas city politics. And so, I probably should have been more closer to the other side than being more conservative. And so, we say Dallas politics is a contact sport. And so, I get a lot of backlash. I was supposed to speak this weekend at a campus at a school at a community college this weekend. And when they found out that I was conservative, they sent and said, they actually won't need me, but I get that a lot. Teaching history, political science, philosophy, epistemology, and other areas of my credentials has changed over time since I've been a conservative, and I've been teaching in higher education as early as 2007 and as late as 2017. And so, it gets me in the bad positions with not only just the African community, but just, real progressive and very liberal people. But it just goes with being who you are. As I transition anything, when I talk about conservatism, I'll talk about it from its ethos and from our background and who we are as conservatives, because we look at conservatism as the individual. Our founding is from the inalienable, which is from God, the individual achievement. They look at it from the collective. When you're not part of the collective, then they won't have any use for you. And so that is where the core of our conservatism is. It's called a political alchemy, and I'll talk about that later on. But thank you for that question.
You're making me think about different things. Like you said, inalienable. That's a mouthful. But what is natural law? How does natural law fit into our Constitution, our society?
Well, from the founders, their educational system, Harvard College, Harvard at the time was a college before it became a university, started sometime around, in my part, my number's going to be a little rusty, sometime around 1693. And then Yale, which would be a conservative for Harvard ministers who did not want to go, that didn't want to adopt to that philosophy, will start Yale sometime around 1701. And so there were certain ideas that the founders, you'll have founders and framers of our republic who will be educators, who will be students of an earlier Enlightenment time. It's called the Age of Enlightenment, sometime around the 15th century. But enlightenment will be based on what we call an awakenings. Awakenings for us it's an evangelical movement in walking into old and new lights. That is a transformation spiritually. The second thing is an enlightenment in which we come into law and medicine, where we start to look at certain things. And so there are certain things that are natural based on their educational system. We will always have diseases, or there'll always be sicknesses because of certain things. There'll always be evil. There'll always be poor. There'll always be certain natural things, things that will take place within our society. Okay, So those are natural based on what we say from God. Okay. And so to be able to be educated under that, then when the founder created the Constitution as well as the Declaration of Independence, it reads certain things that come from earlier writings from early writings that you might say when you read, let's say, the Declaration of Independence, what comes from Cicero, or comes from Emile Vittel, or comes from other scholars, other political theorists at that time about evil. Emile Vittel, Cicero, some Socratic methods of thinking, but a lot of these are old, early positions that about how things should be operate with people, life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, property. These are all concepts that will be early experimented on in the early 15th, 16th century.
Professor Mitchell, you hear everyone talking about the right and the left, or liberal versus conservative. Can you explain what conservatism really is to our audience?
Well, conservatism is an idea. Okay, let's say, since we want to go with liberal and conservative, we are actually liberal and we're conservative. The Declaration of Independence is a liberal document. It reads as such in its preamble what it is to be an American. I tell people, what is it to be an American? To be an American is a preamble. We the people. We the people, it actually doesn't read like that. It lets we the people of Rhode Island, we the people of the Commonwealth of Virginia, we the people of the People's Republic of Massachusetts, we the people of Delaware, we the people of Massachusetts, we the people of South Carolina, North Carolina. Actually, that's how it reads in order to perform a certain thing. So that's actually what it is to be an American, all right? Conservatism is an idea, okay? Liberalism is something that we, because of Jefferson and Jeffersonian ideas, we have only two forms of government when we first started with. We call it Jeffersonian democracy. Real liberal, we liberate ourselves from the king, as everyone should know that particular part of American history. And so we liberated ourselves. We create this document that says that that we the people, in order to form more perfect and establish justice and show domestic tranquility within our preamble. And then we write this declaration to say that we don't want to be governed by the British monarchy, which was the thing of the day. You always, to have a monarchy was just the thing. To have a president, that didn't exist when they started this. And so that we were liberal, that's where it comes from. It's our mother. Our conservatism restricts certain things. It limits our ability to do certain things. Slavery, because of its idea, was liberal, okay? Because it's a natural law. There will always be slavery, even to this day. We just call it human trafficking, but it's still slavery. That's a natural law, okay? But it would be hypocritical for this country to start on a certain constitution, be liberated, legally stay within that particular system of that institution. And so our conservatism limited that, and it needed to change that. The individual freedom that we have, the freedom of speech, the freedom of worship, the freedoms, these are things that we get to have, but there must be limits on that. And conservatives make sure that there are certain things that we must limit based on that protects us from our government. And so that's what the Constitution does. It protects us from a rogue government, people who get into power and they want to take away certain basic rights that we have. And those are usually, I go over, our anniversary is every September. And usually around September 17th, I do the anniversary of our Constitution, which is September 17th from 1789. And I usually do that every year. And so that talks about those first 10: freedom of speech, freedom of worship, freedom of the press, freedom to be able to, where states can make certain decisions. 19th Amendment, but usually I go over that every year and talk about, just to remind them how that works.
Professor, I got to be honest with you. I stole this directly from your website, and it has 4 core values or core things for conservative: individual freedom, limited government, rule of law, and peace through strength. Can you tell us briefly? You've already touched on the freedoms and you've touched on limited government a little bit. Can you tell us what you mean? Just a short definition, what you think rule of law is.
Rule of law is there are certain things that, as in when I was a kid, in kindergarten, we say your rights end where my nose begins. Okay, because there are certain inalienable rights that I have that makes me as an individual, and so as long as it does not impede or its word is infringe or impinge upon my natural rights, then it's okay. Okay. And so when we talk about certain rules of law, there are certain things that the government has to do. They have to make sure that the borders are protected. They got to make sure that I don't know, right now there's problems in Russia, there's problems all around the world, that all of a sudden we don't see anyone just parachuting in Wichita, Kansas, or in Dallas, Texas, or other places. But the government's responsibility is to make sure that the citizens itself are safe. So that's there. And then we abide those rules of law, make sure we have clean water, make sure the trash is taken out, make sure that we are able to have certain abilities to be able to just function as a society. And so we have to abide by some of those laws that these policymakers create at the federal, state, and local levels.
That makes total sense. So it's not it's a matter of us doing what we are supposed to do, or the government doing what it's supposed to do, and following the rules that are out there right now. I would love to explore that more. If we have time, maybe today we will. Maybe we'll have to have you back to talk a little bit more detail on the rule of law. But right now, Professor, we need to take a real short commercial break. Ray, why don't you tell us a little bit about your organization, Heroes in Action?
Well, Heroes in Action was a nonprofit that I started over 17 years ago, dedicated to violence prevention education, and helping people from elementary school age kids, all the way up to senior citizens, learn what to do and say if they had a bullying situation, or somebody with bad intentions that wanted to do violence to them. I'm the author of my autobiography, Bully, Victim, or Hero, and my children's books, The Adventures of Mushy the Martian. And I wrote these as a tool to help teachers and parents learn more about positive strategies they can help their students with, or their kids with, for critical thinking and problem solving. Of course, I'm a speaker and a trainer where I go all over the country and present on how not to be a victim of violence and teach people physical strategies on how to get away and be safe. Heroes in Action, again, is dedicated to, do you want to live in fear or do you want to be fearless? So our training is to help people overcome their fears that they have, especially if they've been traumatized in the past and want to live free and strong again, without having the mindset of, am I ever going to be a victim again? If you're trained to know what to look for, know what to say, you can overcome those fears and live without fear. Again, some of our programs are anti-bully programs for kids. You're dealing with domestic violence issues at home, carjackings, home invasions as well, and then dealing with workplace violence. Active shooter violence is on the rise in our country, and we would love to do seminars or lectures to educate people on how to prevent that violence. Of course, I have my mascot, Mushy the Martian, that goes with me at some of the local venues that we teach at, working with kids. So after I do my child presentations, then I introduce Mushy, and Mushy comes out and interacts with the kids, and everyone has a blast whenever he comes out, and that kind of reinforces the message for the kids to retain and remember. If you want more information, you could always contact me on my cell. Email me directly at rayheroesinactionnow.org. You can go to my website at heroesinaction.us, Facebook page. I do have a YouTube page that has a whole bunch of video tutorials on how to get out of specific situations or holds that people are trying to hurt you and they've got you. And I show you step by step on how to get away. And you can get all my books through my website or through Amazon or barnesandnoble.com.
Right. Thank you very much. And my understanding is because you are set up as a nonprofit, if people want to contribute, they can help you take your seminars and workshops and programs literally coast to coast. Is that correct?
All my seminars and workshops are free. The only expense, if I have to travel outside the Tampa Bay area, would be our travel expenses. But we're trying to get it to where we raise enough money through donations where we don't have to charge, for those travel expenses. We're looking for at least 4,000 people to donate $5 a month, and then there's no fees whatsoever.
And Ray, if I'm not mistaken, people can just go to your website, and give me just a brief moment and I'll get your website up here. And they can actually donate directly on your website. So $5 a month or more.
Or more.
If somebody wanted to contribute $4,000 a month, then you'd be a happy camper.
That would help us train a lot of people all over the country. Yes.
There you go. Well, Ray, thank you very much, and I greatly appreciate what Heroes in Action does for your community and literally around the world. Let's bring in Dr. Mitchell once more. And Professor, I'm confused. What is it in ecclesiasticity? I can't even pronounce it. Ecclesia. What is one of those things?
The root word of it is when you read Ecclesiastes, of course, I spelled it with a K. That's the old Greek form of that. Ecclesiastes is the power, those that are in the power, the governing power. Okay, so let's say right now there are Democrats or liberals that are in power today. You're seeing transgenderism. You're seeing a breakdown in society, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. Marcus, and I'll move up a little bit and then I'll go back on that idea. Marcus Aurelius Cicero once said that no power is strong enough to be lasting if it labors on the weight of fear. Okay, and so obviously we've been here before. About 100 years ago, sometime around 1922. Okay, we will not have a president that will say there is nothing to fear but fear itself, because that was too early of its time. Because there are things that are going on in America about 100 years ago. All right. And then a boy preacher will be born sometime around 1929, and he will do something that rare few Americans will do in the future, and sometime and that'll happen sometime in 1950, and then start a civil rights movement, which Dr. King will do, which will make him very exceptional. But the ecclesiastic is the ruling government of its time. The time when Jesus was walking, he believed that there was ecclesiastic and believed that this is the power. Now, Jesus could have sat down with 10,000 angels, for believers. He could have just eliminated humanity. He probably could have snapped a finger and changed man's heart to be able to do whatever he wanted to do. But as he was walking, he's saying that people were worshiping these temples of the gods and the temples of these other gods with small g's at the particular time. So why didn't Jesus just, turn up, as we like to say, turn it up, turn up his ministry so he can get these people to come on into his church and build a church? He had a different idea. His church is based on the people. It's based on me. It's based on you. It's based on the people. We're the only church that's worldwide. Okay? There's no one like us. Okay? So that tells us something. It's not so much as do we believe in God. It's that God believes in us. Okay? That's power. Okay? That's what gives us something that no one else knows.
Oh, Professor, we just lost you.
We lost your mic.
Professor, we can't hear you. Can you hear us? We just lost you, Professor. Are you there? Well, this is one of those times that when you're broadcasting something live, you never want to have. So, Ray, any thoughts on what he has been sharing so far related to the fact that we are worldwide and our history from the perspective of a conservative versus a liberal point of view?
Well, I mean, I think we're all libertarian in one way or another. He's trying to get back, I think.
Professor, you coming back? Just start talking when we still can't hear you. Well, Ray, while we're trying to figure out some of the technical things,
Sure.
one of the things, and actually I see that he is muted. Professor, can you hear me now? No, you have muted yourself. So Ray, one of the things that I heard, and he is a college professor, so he's specifically in the Dallas Fort Worth area. But one of the things that I heard recently, it's a really crazy statistic, and that is that over 95% of all students in colleges and universities today never hear a conservative point of view.
Well, that's what the professor was saying. He was slated to speak at a community college,
Yeah.
and they said once they found out he was a conservative, they said thanks but no thanks and shut him down. And that happens to a lot of conservative speakers or people that have conservative ideologies. When they go to the universities as a speaker, they're shouted down, they're protested against. There's always a threat of violence because they're there. And the universities have to come up with security protocols, or they'll just say, we just don't want to mess with it. Let's just cancel your speech.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
That's the cancel culture that's going on throughout our country.
Well, and the cancel culture is rampant. It's amazing. You get freedom of speech literally around the country, except on the college campus. I've seen a number of videos over the past couple of years with people like Charlie Kirk. You may know the name Charlie Kirk, and he's doing some interviews on college campuses, and there are people literally trying to get him off of the campus because he's coming out there with some opposing views. And I mean, I saw I saw one video clip, and it was about a 4 or 5 minute video, and there's one of the college students that he called security to come and escort Charlie Kirk off campus. And Charlie's response was, this is called freedom of speech. And these security guys, campus police, basically said, just because you may be hurt or offended doesn't mean that you are going to nullify.
Can y'all hear me?
We can hear you, Professor.
All right. I'm back.
Professor.
My apologies.
Okay.
Technology. Thank y'all.
Yeah, isn't technology fun?
Yeah, that's fun.
So Professor, let's go back. Ray and I were talking about the fact that on college campuses today, that I want to say it's over 95% of the students never hear a conservative idea while they are on campus. So how do you change that, or how do we change that whole crazy mindset?
Okay, that's a good question. Okay, I'm a university professor. Okay, and a college professor is the difference between being a college professor and a university professor. I'm a university professor. Matter of fact, I'm an international university professor because there are certain colleges of liberalism, colleges of engineering, colleges of certain things, and so there's a difference, a distinction with this, a difference. Okay, I do teach at the colleges, and I've taught at the colleges for a long time, and I'm in retirement now and doing other things. However, to answer your question, in this particular climate, it will be very, very difficult because our schools, unless you go to a school, a university that is open to conservative ideas,
Yeah.
all right. Now, because I like to say a little long in the tooth, my core of my raising is I embrace conservatism. I have a liberal side. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. This was what you saw when I left off for a while. I had to move and exchange. I had to change the way I'm going to communicate with you. That's a liberal side of me. We're moving in real time. That's the gift that God gives us to be able to always interchanging all the time. That's a progressive idea. That's what they build on, the collective. The individual has the ability to do something exceptional. This show's an exceptional show. We're an exceptional American. There are people there what we call exceptional. We can do exceptional things. In reality, we're ordinary people in an exceptional position. That's America. Ordinary people who can do something exceptional. This particular show, what Ray is doing, he's an ordinary man doing something exceptional.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
Very
Steve,
true.
you're an ordinary man, ordinary American, but you're doing something exceptional by doing this particular program. That's how we see it, okay? Because God gives us a gift. The gift is, God will never take away our gift. It's here with us forever. It's what we do with that gift to build the kingdom. And I'm not a preacher. I'm just an academic. I'm an academician by trade. I'm a thinking man. But there are some things that science cannot prove. And so when you are in a body of students who, and you give them grades, you tell them they're awesome, you tell them they're the future of something, you put in their head that they're going to be something when in reality they're probably not. College is not for everybody. The university environment is not for everybody. The military is not for everybody. Football is not for everybody. But there are certain realms of things that's not what you're for. But we open it for all kinds of ideas. And so as a conservative, there are things and concepts that I bring about that will probably make them a little bit uncomfortable, like philosophy. And sometimes my younger son, he says, Dad, I just can't stand philosophy. But he's 20. And I tell him, well, son, the knowledge is older than you've been alive. Okay, that's why. But you maybe in time you'll grow into the knowledge. Okay, but that's all that's about. It's just why it's wisdom. And at certain stage of lives, you'll as you grow physically and mentally and psychologically, you grow into a maturity of wisdom, possibly. Okay, and so when I talk about those concepts, it's not going to be in your textbook. I'm free thinking with y'all, and I want y'all to understand that right now you got beyond college, you got to get a job. We're here to teach you, give you basic fundamentals of American history, of philosophy, of political science, of physics, and such. And these are tools to use when you get into the workplace, and not to transform you so you don't even recognize your own kid once they leave out your house. That's the progressive. Yeah. There's no room for me.
Professor, everything that I'm hearing you saying is that you want to teach people individualism as opposed to collectivism. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, precisely correct. Yeah.
And
because there's only so many A's you can give. There's only so many B students. There's always going to be so many millionaires. There's always going to be so many, people middle class. People who are going to always be poor. There's always, that's a natural law, okay?
Right.
In a percentage-wise, there should never be 100% A's, okay? There's only so many A students, so many B students, so many C students, okay? Yeah. Okay, that's really just the reality. There's always going to there'll always be someone better than I, okay? As an individual, you cannot replace me as an individual, but you can replace me as a man, okay? You can replace me. I'm not irreplaceable. No one's irreplaceable. Okay. In that frame of thought, and sometimes that may be a little difficult for millennials or Gen Z or other people to really grasp that because they believe they're awesome, they're perfect, they're infallible. Not true. Based on the laws of God and man, we will always be short of the glory. Always, 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 always improving yourself is a forever task until you are called home. Okay,
Yeah.
that's just an is. When we get to the apotheosis of our own concept and think we're awesome, then we choose to that we will not grow. If I think I
Well,
know all, there'll be problems. I'm sorry, you want
well,
to add something, Ray?
well, that's the everyone gets a trophy mentality that I think is
So
hurt
true.
the youth, where everyone's going to get a blue ribbon, everyone's going to be praised and high five, like you'd said earlier. But I don't think the current generation of youth are learning the true meaning of what it is to be an American anymore.
Yeah.
When you take you know reciting the Pledge of Allegiance out of the classroom, and you take or there groups and organizations that are trying to influence or rewrite our history. Can you tell us what it is to be an American, and how do you convey that message to the youth of today?
Well, America is Steve. It's you, Ray. It's me. It's
Yeah.
us. Because when you have been around a while, if you want to talk about the founder, it's really not the founder. It's not Dr. King. It's not Frederick Douglass. It's not all these early Americans. It's really us. Okay? Because they gave us a gift to be able to decide what kind of society we want to live in and how we govern that. Okay? And sometimes when I tell the history of how things are challenging for me to come up in the inner city Dallas with a single mom, or to try to explain to people how challenging it was to go to college or to do certain things, that's actually your American story of success. Okay, when we deny that from our children and we say no, you gotta pay your dues. You gotta go to college, or you gotta serve your country, you gotta learn trade. Not everybody can come out of college or come out of a college and get a job playing football. Not everybody can finish college and finish school in 4 years and get a six-figure job. The average American does not. Our average children do not come out of the school environment and able to get these big jobs and fancy stuff. They're usually just average day or American, work at GM, General Motors, or just naming a place, or work for other just regular company, McDonald's, just making average salary. And then they grow over time. It takes some time. Okay. Unless you just got humongous talent athletic wise, or a songstress or something like that. But it can reach to the natural, it can rise to the national level to do certain things. Okay. That kind of stuff. And so when I explain it to young people, what are you willing to do to become an MD? What are you willing to become? What are you willing to become a
Exactly.
nurse, or what are you willing to become the engineer, or whatever profession you want to get into? Can you do that job for free? If you can do it for free, it's not this job I can do for free,
Yeah.
because it's valuable to me.
Yeah.
But to
You know,
everybody else, no, it's not, because I'm college educated and university driven and stuff like that. I believe in the cause.
there are some people that have a bent towards English, or maybe it's history, maybe it's science, maybe it's physics. But then you've got a whole group of people that are not being promoted in schools today, in high schools and so forth, that maybe they're good in working with their hands. Maybe they need to be a carpenter, a plumber, an auto mechanic, an electrician. And we have so diminished the value of those people. And we're going to wake up one day and we're not going to have auto mechanics. We're not going to have electricians. We're not going to have plumbers, and our toilets are going to get all backed up because we don't have plumbers that are out there. So while I think college is important for some people, I think the trades are extremely important, and I think we're missing the boat in that area in a lot of different ways.
Social engineering is nothing new. Social engineering was Darwin's theory. Darwin's comes out with social engineering years ago, and that was the categorization of certain African Americans, women, Native Americans, Mexican Americans, Asian American. Those are the five groups. Okay, in the early about 100 years ago. Okay, social engineering wasn't anything. Okay, that's new. That's nothing new. in today, it is woke and it is BLM. Okay, that's just Darwin's theory turned around to fit certain groups of people today. All right. In the older days, it was a particular idea. Yes, it was a particular idea, and in this particular idea, it was called it was white male Christian hit a certain population. In today's time, it is called it is usually people PhD, African American, female. Usually that's where we get most of the tension coming from certain people at the time. Yeah, that's usually where it comes from today. Yep. With the wokeism and the BLM. Yeah.
Well, Professor, we need to take another short break. And this break, we're going to be talking about our health and specifically about a company called LifeWave. LifeWave has been around for almost 20 years. They are a health-related, science-based company that came up with the concept of using light therapy to help do different things. They started with a program that helped increase people's energy, specifically Navy SEALs and other sailors. And then they got into the U.S. Olympic Committee, and the company has just expanded tremendously over the past few years. And one of the most sought after products that they have is a product called the X39 stem cell patch. And what this patch does, it's a wafer thin patch that you simply take the backing off and you put it on your body, and it activates your stem cells. It tells your stem cells to go back to work and do what they are supposed to be doing. So this will give you an idea of just some of the benefits of these stem cell patches. It's going to help you with rapid pain relief. It's going to help you with reduced inflammation and supports better wound healing, more energy, vitality. It's going to help you with more mental clarity and better performance and rebounding from athletic activities, those sorts of things. But one of the things that a lot of the ladies especially like is the fact that it is actually going to help you with reducing wrinkles on your face. So I've got a couple of real quick pictures I'll share with you. Let's see if I can get that a little bit bigger. Here's a young man that he was in a skiing accident, and you can see in just a few days, 5 days, his face is healing very well as a result of using the patches. And here's a man that was in a car accident, and right at 2 months, you could barely see where his hand had almost been severed off. Absolutely amazing. Here's a young fella, a young teenager, that had his fingertip that was cut off by a closing door. His mom and dad scooped up the fingertip, rushed him to the hospital, insisted that the doctors in the emergency room sew his fingertip back on, even though they said it's not going to come back to life. It's done. It's over. Well, in just 2 months, he had full use of that finger once again. And here's a woman that started using these stem cell patches, and you can see the progression and how much younger she is looking as a result of using these activation patches, the stem cell activation patches. So if you'd like more information on how to rejuvenate your stem cells, you could reach out to me, Steve, info at Stephen Reed Ministries. I'm happy to get you some more information, share some videos with you, maybe even get you a free sample of one of these X39 stem cell patches. And myself personally, massive pain reduction, better sleep. And I had somebody tell me a couple of weeks ago, Steve, you're looking younger. I love that sort of thing. So, Professor, let me bring you back in, Professor. I've got another question for you. You are a person of faith, and that is a critical thing that we don't talk about a lot. Why is having faith in the world of politics and political science, why is that important for us today?
Because very good question. Because there are certain knowledge is the first time in human history that knowledge is given to everyone. Okay, knowledge. That's it. Knowledge is given to us all. Okay, we have it in the palm of our hand. How we decipher information, it's like giving a kid money. Give them everybody's born with $1 million or $1 billion. And it really, their true nature of how they see the world, how they spend the money is a reflection on what they are with a certain gift like that. For example, with learning the American history, there's good and bad world history. Human condition is bad. You can see some ugly things. We went 5,000 years using a horse and a carriage, and we've only had automobiles for less than 120 some odd years. Okay, we haven't had an automobile that long. Okay, but prior to that, it was a horse and carriage what people used to have for 5,000 years. Okay, so when people look at certain conditions worldwide, what's happening in Russia, what's happening in North Korea, what's happening in parts of Africa, Mexico, et cetera, then it looks like the whole world, Jesus on his way back. That's not true. You're only seeing it from your own schemata. You're seeing it from your own point of view. That doesn't make sense the world is going to hell. Doesn't mean everything is bad. It just means that we have the ability to kind of see what's happening in a chamber than we did a generation ago. And so you have to kind of dissect it and say, oh my, there are some patterns. A lot of times people say history repeats itself. No, history doesn't repeat itself. History just rhymes, okay? Because there are certain times that people think that they're above certain prejudice, they're above hate, they're above certain natural things that people usually have. They just, sometimes humanity just can not do all the right things that we expect them to do. And so as a scientist and a scholar, my job is to tell people, yeah, it's some tough times in our country have now because we don't have good policymakers. And usually it works better with people who are believers, because with believers, they're not perfect, but at least they know that they have something greater than them, and they're more, what we call more, I can talk to them more than, maybe people are novice in history or government or philosophy or physics. And where I say you need to be more reasonable. That student doesn't deserve an A. They've not attained the core of the course. They don't know anything. You just give them a grade to pass them on. But for believers, I can say to you, Ray, Steve, you need to seek your better angel. Okay? A lot of times, what will Jesus do? These are good things because you bring them back to the consciousness that there's something greater than their cause. Okay? That God is still on the throne. This is how it all's going to happen. We still got to go through his son to get to him. But these are core principles of the faith. And there are things we're not going to understand in God's wisdom. It may just be planned a certain way for a reason.
I agree with that, Professor, but we've seen an attack against God, family, and our patriotism within the last decade. Why do you think over the last 10 years this has been happening?
Well, because our identity has been attacked, and that's not just didn't happen in 10 years. It actually started early on. There was a magazine, my apologies if I can't remember it, but the Jet magazine came out and said that, God is dead. Okay. There's actually where in philosophy, there is a thing where it calls we go through a deistic, post-nihilo, altruistic point of view, and we call what is called post-mortem theory, which means that we live in an era since the modern times, since the early 20th century, where God is dead. So there is no law that we have to abide by. Okay, but that's been since the early 20th century, and there are certain people who subscribe to that ideology, and they've been pushing that since the early 20th century, and it just manifests itself over the years. But they had to do it little by little by little. Okay, but that's actually where it starts a little bit further back in the early part of the early 20th century. And so now we're trying to see it in action more so, and in practice more so than we did in earlier years when Jenny, Golden Jenny, and Golden generation, kids born in 1920s, and then the Boomer generation, but more so they can bring it out with Jenny X, Jenny Y, Jenny Z, more so.
Steve, you're muted.
Yes, I am. Thank you very much. It's because I had a coughing attack and I didn't want to disturb everybody. So thank you. Professor, you obviously have a passion for our history, for rule of law and natural law and all of those things, but you also have a passion for helping to get that message out and helping other people in the political side, political candidates, get their message out and helping different people with a good message, a conservative message, get their voices heard. So how do you help people that are political candidates, for instance?
Well, I usually depends on who I'm speaking with and what level of office. If it's like a local office, school board, because the power is that the office that is most closest to you is the one that's most dangerous. So school boards, uh, city council, sheriff's races, these local offices are very, very important because it really matters at the small end. But there are certain conservative ideas that candidates need to understand in maintaining when they run for local office. And that's my job, is to keep them aware as an analyst to say, this is the core principles on why you're on the school board. You're on the school board, to fire the superintendent, hire the superintendent, make good public policy so that parents are having certain access to their children and stuff like that, and not, putting your own ideology where you think the direction of the students need to be. At the city council level, same thing. There are certainly some cities it's nonpartisan, some it's partisan. They have what's called an alderman, and so sometimes these council people want to sound like they're running for president or for Congress. That's a federal position you're taking. These are just local, everyday mom and pop issues that you need to be concerned about in your constituency, but at the local level. When you talk about federal, supporting our military, making sure we have strong national borders and stuff like, those are critical issues at the federal level. And then at the local level, our county judge was very, very important. You see it in Dallas, you see it in Tarrant County, how important it is to be a county judge, especially during COVID. If you don't have a good county judge, it's going to be as different as 90 days because they can act certain policy that can hurt your business. But we've seen a lot of power that county judges can do, and as well as local DAs and how they did with the George Floyd. That was a clear example. You can protest unless you come out, unless you were protesting George Floyd, but you couldn't come out if for COVID. And so I said, well, hey, maybe we need to go out and protest this thing that's happening with Jesus. I'm saying, hey, man, why are you locked up? Oh, I'm locked up because I was protesting George Floyd. Hey, why were you locked up? Oh, I was locked up. I was throwing rocks at the police. Why are you locked up? I was locked up for trying to go to church. They're going to look at you in jail.
So you developed several years ago, you developed a PAC, and why don't you tell us a little bit about the things that you do and how you help people that are running for office get their message out? What exactly do you do?
I do mailers. I do door to door. I have people, their job is to go door to door and do. It depends on what races I'm running, but I usually do these mailers and get them out at the national level or local level. All right, so that's one. I got people that job is design those mailers, and then make and sure that these clients that I have, these candidates that I have, that they understand this is what impact group is all about. It's about building a strong relationship with the community, strong core values, supporting our police, supporting families, supporting God, supporting the rule of law. And these are conservative because it's an idea. And sometimes there are still blue dog Democrats. There are still Americans out there who are independent or moderate or libertarian, and then we might say these are just political parties that still have a conservative ideas and don't like the direction that the government's going at the present time. And so
what is MPAC?
M stands for Mitchell, P stands for political, A stands for action, and then C stands for consulting, and then the group and associates. But since then, that particular piece was done when I was traveling to Africa back in 2015, and so that was designed for me,
Okay.
and that's the one I've used since then. Because usually I take that idea, that white part that you see near that red globe is the Congo, because the Congo, the Democratic Republic of Congo, which used to be Zaire, is the heart of Africa, and so it's the Texas, we might say, of all of Africa, and so that's where I got that idea and that image.
I'm going to guess you're pretty busy this time of year, since we are right in the middle of the political season, closing in on the end of this political campaign season. What kinds of things can you do to help those conservative candidates get their message out, and that way we can start moving our company back towards the conservative side?
Well, it'd be good for them, for the candidate to be flexible, okay? And there are certain things that they're going to have to be uncomfortable with. And if you're in October still talking to conservatives and you're on the Republican ticket, you're losing already. You need to be talking to the other side. If you're doing everything that you've always done and not doing anything different, you all you're doing is living in the same manner. If it's the opposite. If as an American who is African descent and who as a scholar, if I'm not helping my white brothers and sisters and helping them to understand America, then I'm on the wrong side. Okay. If you're not doing the opposite, okay, you're on the wrong. You're doing it's the opposite. It is the strong who protects the weak. It is the light that leads to dark. It is the unwashed that lead the washed. It is the individuals who are willing to stand for, to have the courage that where no one else will have. Because people don't follow titles, they follow courage.
Yeah. Good point. Good point.
I mean, one of the things that I've noticed is more conservatives or even Republicans, they talk to each other, but they don't reach out as much as they should to people on the left and try to have a debate or a discussion to get them to see their point of view. But then on the left, you never really see them wanting to listen. It's two stubborn sides that can't get together and have a decent conversation and communicate with each other on what would actually be best for our country and for the people of our country.
We have no debates on that one. With that, Ray, I don't know. It'll get worse or it gets better. Okay, we're going through a political metamorphosis. Okay,
Yeah.
it's good for us.
True.
It's healthy for us. The COVID revealed our truth. People want truth. Okay, here was truth. Either you're gonna move now, you're gonna wear the mask, or you're gonna sit back and all that. But also, it revealed who we are. It revealed our vulnerability and our strength at the same time. Those that are weak, they're doing what they need to do. Those who are strong, they're going to do what they need to do. This is right where we need to be. We need to bring it all out. Okay, and that's why you need programs like that. You need to go places where no one's going to want to go.
Yeah,
right.
It's a good time. Good time.
Gentlemen, we are out of time. I knew this was going to happen because this is a great subject. We could do this for many hours. So, folks, if you would like to reach out, you'd like to get some more information from Dr. Mitchell. Here's his email address is scrolling across the bottom right now. Geoffrey at impactgroupassociates.com. Feel free to reach out to him or go to his website, impactgroupassociates.com. Ray, any final thoughts?
Just go to our YouTube page, like, comment, share, and subscribe. Go to our Facebook page, same thing. We did have some Facebook comments. T. Jones says hello, Dr. Mitchell, and he was very enthusiastic about you being on our show today. And so please comment, and Dr. Mitchell will be able to see your comments after the show is over with, and he can comment back to you. We can also respond. So, but please like, share. If you like the show, also leave a review.
Folks,
Steve?
that is all the time we have for today. It is, as always, our pleasure to visit with you Wednesday afternoons, 1:30 Central Time, for this few minutes. God bless you all. Have a great day. Goodbye.
Don't keep us a
Dr. Mitchell,
secret.
thank you for coming on with us today. We'd love to have you back. Bye, y'all.
Thank you.